You see them everywhere. In parks, your backyard, maybe even stealing from your bird feeder right now. Yep, I'm talking about the common squirrel. But, behind that twitchy little nose and that big bushy tail, there's this incredible story. A story of ecological creation, billion-dollar destruction, and some really cutting-edge science. So let's get into it. And this right here, this is the heart of the paradox. I mean, how can one little animal be both a genius architect, literally building entire forests, and at the same time an invasive pest that causes millions in damages every single year? It sounds kind of impossible, right? But the story of the squirrel, well, it's a story of contradictions. So let's start with the good stuff, the squirrel as a creator. We're not just talking about some cute little critter here. In a lot of places, it's actually one of the most important animals in the entire ecosystem. And look, this isn't some new discovery. We've known this for a long time. Over a century ago, naturalists like Ernest Thompson Seton, they recognized this fundamental truth. Squirrels are master tree planters. It's their instinct, right? They bury nuts for later, and then they totally forget where they put some of them. And that simple act, that's literally how entire forests get their start. This role is so critical that ecologists actually have a special name for it, a keystone species. Think about it like the keystone in an arch, that one stone at the very top that holds everything else together. You pull that stone out, and the whole thing crumbles. That's the squirrel. And it's way more complicated than just planting seeds. This is where you see the incredible web they weave. Okay, so it starts with squirrels eating truffles, which are basically these underground mushrooms. Then, as they scamper around, they spread the fungal spores through their waste. Now those fungi, they connect with tree roots, and it's this amazing symbiotic relationship where the fungi help the trees soak up way more nutrients, so the whole forest gets healthier. You see the connection? Healthy squirrels mean healthy fungi, and healthy fungi mean healthy trees. It's all connected.
And their impact isn't just in the forests. Head out onto the prairies, and you'll find that ground squirrels are just as vital. I mean, they're the main food source for endangered hawks and falcons. Their little burrows become ready-made homes for everything from owls to snakes to foxes. And all that digging they do, it's not just making holes. It aerates the soil, which helps water get deep into the ground. They are truly ecosystem engineers. All right, so we've painted a pretty rosy picture, right? The squirrel is an ecological hero. But that's only half the story. Now we have to look at the other side, how this exact same animal can become a massive billion-pound problem. So, are squirrels an ecosystem's best friend? Well, this is where that paradox really kicks in. Because while the North American gray squirrel is a total hero in its native habitat, what do you think happens when you take it out of that environment and drop it somewhere it doesn't belong? You get this, 40 million pounds. That is the absolutely staggering cost of damage from timber caused by invasive gray squirrels in England. And that's not a one-time thing. That's every single year. They were introduced from North America back in the 19th century, and they've become nothing short of an economic and ecological disaster. And if that massive number is hard to wrap your head around, this slide really brings it home. Look at this. A healthy hectare of oak trees, that's worth over 54,000 pounds. But after squirrels get to it and strip the bark, which damages or even kills the trees, that same plot of land is now worth just over 7,000 pounds. They literally wipe out almost 90% of its value. It's devastating. And the damage isn't just about the money. Ecologically, they're a nightmare. They push out the smaller, native red squirrels, threatening them with local extinction. For farmers, their tunnels can break super expensive machinery, and they're out there competing directly with livestock for food. So yeah, the hero of the American forest has become a total villain in Europe. So you have to wonder, how can this one animal be so successful for both good and for bad? Well, the answer is in its incredible biology and its surprising intelligence, a survival toolkit that is now inspiring some seriously futuristic science. All right, let's play a little myth or fact. When you think of hibernation, you probably think it's just a long winter's nap, right? But what's actually going on inside a squirrel's brain is, well, it's a lot more extreme than that. Total myth. In fact, their body temperature drops so low, down to near freezing, that their brains literally can't perform the functions we associate with sleep. It's not sleep. It's more like a state of suspended animation. It's a biological superpower that lets them survive the absolute harshest conditions. And this is where it gets truly amazing. Scientists are now studying this incredible ability to figure out how to protect the human brain. By understanding how a squirrel's brain can survive that deep cold without damage, they're developing new drugs to help lower the body temperature of people who've had a cardiac arrest or a stroke. This research could potentially save countless human lives, all thanks to a hibernating squirrel. So, the next time somebody calls you squirrel-brained, you should probably just take it as a compliment. Seriously. They're far from being scatterbrained. They are master organizers. They use this really sophisticated mental filing system called spatial chunking. They actually group their buried nuts by type, by size, even by quality. It's an incredible memory system that lets them remember the location of thousands of individual hiding spots.
Okay, so we've got these two totally different portraits of the same animal, right? On one hand, a creator and a scientific marvel. On the other, a destroyer and an economic pest. So how do we put these pieces together? How do we reconcile this paradox?
And here it is, the whole paradox laid out side by side. You see, the squirrel isn't inherently good or bad. It's not that simple. Its entire identity, its value, it all depends on context. In its native ecosystem, it's an absolutely essential creator. But you move it outside of that system, and it becomes a destroyer. It is the perfect living example of how a species' true value is defined by its place in the world.
And our relationship with this animal goes way, way back. It's deep and ancient. So deep, in fact, that in Finland, the modern word for money, raha, originally meant a squirrel skin. For centuries, these little pelts were a primary unit of currency. This animal wasn't just a part of the ecosystem, it was the foundation of the entire economy.
And so this tiny animal leaves us with a really big question, doesn't it? It shows us that value isn't some fixed thing. It's this complex balance of context, cost, and perspective. The squirrel paradox, it isn't just about one little animal. It's about how we, in this world we all share, choose to measure the worth of the life that's all around us.